Hello, we are Ladies Philip Davies and we're here with Philip Davies. My name is Natoya.
I'm Elizabeth.
I'm Paula. And we also have two other ladies with us today, Belinda and Catherine. So for now, let's get started. What should we talk about, Philip?
I'm in your hands.
Well, I tell you what I really want to know, because you are always talking about policy, you're an MP and you care about your constituents, but I really want to know what led you to your stance on your feelings about equality. Did something happen to you? Any experiences in your life?
No, it's nothing to do with my own personal experience. Nothing at all. No, I mean I like standing up for unfashionable causes. I mean any old fool can stand up and argue for things that everybody else is standing up for, and I like to stand up for things that people shy away from. And if I think there's something there's an injustice, then I like to speak out. Funnily enough, on crime, where I actually highlight about how badly men are treated compared to women in the criminal justice system, the thing that got me into that was I used to hear in the House of Commons chamber in justice questions, month after month after month, how badly women were treated in the criminal justice system. And I thought, that's terrible. I thought that's terrible. That, you know, why should they be treated worse than men?
And who highlights that?
Oh yeah, I mean, lots of women MPs will just, in effect, lie. But I was taken in by the lies. I heard it so often. I thought it must be true. They can't just be lying. They must be telling the truth. And I thought it was terrible. And so I thought I wanted to do something about this. And so I then researched all the information about how men and women are treated in the criminal, and was shocked to find out that there was a massive disparity, but not the one that they were given. And so I thought it was important that somebody set out the facts. It's a long and lonely job, really. Sometimes when you're trying to push water uphill, but you know, I felt it was important that people needed to know what the facts were, and they could make their own mind up about it. But I was appalled that people were literally just lying to pursue their own agenda.
And can you remind us and the viewers what the facts are about the justice system and how men and women are treated, and what the disparity is?
Well, the facts are that for every single category of offence, a man is more likely to be sent to prison than a woman for committing that offence. They are more likely to get a longer prison sentence on average, and they will spend more of their prison sentence in prison than a woman for every single category of offence. And the figures are stark. That was why I decided that information needed to be published.
Yeah, and we are Ladies Visit Davies here. We've come up with this group and this campaign to support you, because we're disgusted about how you've been treated, really, when you speak out about equality issues and issues such as this. But we also are called Liberty Bells, and that is one of the key issues that we care about too, and we've noticed that disparity. So with that in mind, I would like Elizabeth to ask a question about other things that we care about that you do too.
Well, shall I go on to Belinda's question?
Yeah, go ahead.
We were just wondering, because a cross-party team of 44 MPs has written to Justine Greening asking her to implement 4 months paid paternal leave for fathers. And what do you think of that policy?
I suspect that it will be probably unaffordable for most businesses. Really, that will be my concern, and I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I don't really know what the demand is from them. You tend to, as an MP, you sort of respond to things that your constituents say are important to them. And I think I can safely say, in my 12 years as the MP for Shipley, I have never had a man come to me at a surgery or email me or write to me saying, I want longer paid paternity leave. I don't think I've ever had anybody argue for that. So the question is, where's this campaign coming from? Because it doesn't appear to be coming from men wanting it. And it seems, from what I can tell, and we've done some of this stuff on the Women and Equalities Committee, that the campaign is coming from women who think that this is the way to deal with the gender pay gap. It's not about improving the lives of men, it's not even about improving the lives of women, it's about trying to find a way to artificially eliminate this sort of gender pay gap that they think should be the top priority. And in effect, they'd rather drag everybody down to make it level, rather than have everybody going up, but there'd be a disparity. And I don't understand this because in my experience, you know, if you're a parent, the chances are, I mean, obviously there are single parents right from the word go, and that's obviously tough. But when a baby's born, the chances are there'll be a man and a woman involved. That's the likeliest scenario, is that there will be a man and a woman. So I don't really see this sort of gender v gender issue, because I would imagine that the woman wants the man to do as well as possible in work to help pay for things, and the man wants the woman to be able to do what she wants, whether it's go back to work or look after the baby or whatever it might be that they want. I don't really see that there's this competition that in effect some of the feminists see that there is.
Yeah.
So I don't know where this campaign for 4 months paid paternity leave comes from, because I've never had anybody who's asked me for it. It's a feminist campaign issue, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not for the best interest of men.
No.
Mm-hmm. And I also really want to know if you could tell us why you voted against the Istanbul Convention and spoke so eloquently on it as well.
Well, I was against the Istanbul Convention because it only related to violence against women and girls. And it seems to me that the law of the land should be equal between men and women. It should be, if you're a victim of crime and a victim of violent crime, it should be irrelevant whether you're a male or a female. You should both get the same levels of support. It should be irrelevant whether the perpetrator's male or female. They're irrelevances. And so I just thought it was absolutely appalling that we were going to write into the statute book that actually violence against women was more important than violence against men. And I can't accept that.
Mm-hmm.
To me, they're both equally bad. And that's why I was so vociferous in opposing the Istanbul Convention.
I thought it was really interesting when you said in one of your Heat Street articles that the rates of domestic violence in countries that have ratified it haven't gone down as well.
No, exactly. I mean, the thing was that they talked about all these other countries that had ratified it, and that's why we should. But not one of the people who advocated it had actually taken the effort to find out what happened in those other countries that had ratified. I was literally the only MP who wrote to every single ambassador of the countries who had ratified it and asked them for the figures. You'd think, wouldn't you, in business, if somebody does something and you want to decide whether you should do it too, the first thing you do is say, well, what impact did it have? Did it have a good impact or did it have a bad impact? In politics, that's an irrelevance. And I was the only one who actually bothered to find out, did this make any difference? And the fact of the matter was that quite clearly, if you look at the figures, ratifying the Istanbul Convention doesn't make a blind bit of difference to levels of violence against women or girls. In fact, in some countries like Austria, the violence went through the roof after they ratified the convention. I'm not saying it's because they ratified it, but clearly it makes no difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it's obvious, isn't it? You know, if you're concerned about men being violent towards women, particularly in the context of domestic violence, I mean, can you imagine how many men who are about to beat up their wife or partner or whatever it is would say, hold on a minute, I'm not going to do that because I think, if I'm not mistaken, that we've just signed the Istanbul Convention. I mean,
but all of the things it purports to tackle are already illegal anyway.
Yes, exactly. Of course, you can't make something more illegal.
It's simply what you said before. It's simply just writing feminist patriarchy theory into legislation, isn't it?
Yeah,
which is the really dangerous thing.
Absolutely.
I've got a quote from it here. The preamble states that violence against women is a manifestation of historically unequal power relations between women and men, which have led to domination over and discrimination against women by men, and to the prevention of the full advancement of women, and is one of the crucial social mechanisms by which women are forced into a subordinate position compared with men.
Wow.
As if that's fact, when actually it's
Well,
validly
absolutely.
contested.
Yeah.
So why are
Absolutely.
we allowing feminist beliefs to be written into legislation?
Because the reason why is that anybody who resists it gets the treatment that I get.
you get called a misogynist
And so
and a national disgrace.
It's easier, isn't it? I mean, I must be a fool, really, to sort of stand up and say these things. My life would be much easier if I just sort of sat and didn't say anything and let them just carry on with it. And you know, it would make my life a lot easier, wouldn't it? And that's what everyone else thinks. They think, well, why would I? Why bother? You know, I'll just anything for an easy life.
I think that Paula's got a great question concerning this.
Yeah. Well, it's connected to the Istanbul Convention because we wondered how much kind of representation feminists have in Parliament. It's kind of really difficult to find that out. But just looking at the number of votes that people voted for the Istanbul Convention, it appears that feminists are represented in Parliament by around 21%, where by a Fawcett Society survey, that kind of proportion in the general population is 7%, where most people are not feminists, but they do support egalitarian values, but they don't call themselves feminists. So I was going to ask you, how can we get a more representative egalitarian parliament which promotes the cooperation of the sexes over and above the feminist obsession with the battle of the sexes?
Well, I suppose it's up to the public to vote for people, who they vote to be their local MP.
Yeah.
That's a matter for them. That's democracy. People have got to vote for what they want. I mean, the thing is, the issue with feminism, it's a difficult one because everybody has their own definition of feminism. So what one person's definition is will be completely different to somebody else's. I mean, I think my great grandma was a suffragette.
Mm-hmm.
My grandma was called Sylvia after Sylvia Pankhurst. I think for lots of people, where feminism started was in a noble pursuit for genuine equality. Mm-hmm. And there's no doubt in my mind that in the past women have been discriminated against in certain areas, and that's now, to me, the solution is to remove the discrimination. Unfortunately, for many sort of modern day feminism, it's about reversing the discrimination, and that's where the problem is. So the thing is, when you say, well, do you believe in feminism? It's a difficult question to answer because it depends. You get different people in the room, they'll all have different versions of what that means. For some people, that genuinely means gender equality.
Well, I think you can find, if you ask a card-carrying feminist if they believe in egalitarian, or what is the difference between feminism and egalitarianism, they won't answer you because they know the difference, because feminism is about the fight against patriarchy. It's not about the fight for equal rights.
Yes, exactly. I think, like I say, I think it's moved. I think it's moved over time. I think originally,
certainly since the 70s.
I think it's become much more. Those people who sort of call themselves feminists are much more militant in their feminism, in a way that's completely at odds with the vast majority of the public and the vast majority of women.
Well, that's kind of one of the things, because I was going to say. Basically, patriarchy is kind of central to what feminism is, and part of patriarchy, coming back from the 70s and Marxist and socialist feminism, is propped up by the heterosexual family unit. So basically, feminism is targeting that unit. And now I quoted the Fawcett Society survey, which said that only 7% of people call themselves feminists. They try to kind of fudge that by saying, well, people don't really understand what feminism means. But I actually think they do understand what feminism means, and they understand that actually feminism, as opposed to egalitarianism, is a threat to the very things that they hold dear. There was a survey this year by the BBC which showed that most people, men and women, the two things that they hold most, their priorities in life are their families and their relationships, which is absolutely the opposite to what feminism is about, really.
Has become about. I know. I think there's a lot of. I mean, look. If you look at all the surveys and ask men and women what their political priorities are, it's amazing how similar they are.
Yeah.
Yes.
The issues that they raise about what they're concerned about are very similar. It's, about immigration or the NHS or education. The same. Out of the top 5, 4 will be exactly the same between men and women.
Yeah, there's a working paper just come out of the UN from Burundi and Somalia, I think, for female political representation in war zones, and they come to the same conclusion. Men and women politically actually converge in the same kind of issues. They don't want to fight; they want to.
No, but it's perfectly reasonable. I mean, it's logical, because if you're a husband and wife or boyfriend and girl and you're living together, the chances are you're going to have the same priorities in your lives. You're not going to have completely separate.
You don't want
ones.
to out. Yeah. No,
So,
it's competition with your partner.
No, and so it's pretty, but that's the fact of the matter. Men and women have the same political priorities, and I've never ever yet in all the I've been involved in politics for, I think my dad had me out delivering leaflets and knocking on doors when I was about 13. So I've been involved in politics.
Thinking of you when you were 13.
Yeah, I know. For over 30 years, I've been sort of involved in politics one way or another, I guess. And all I can say is that I have never yet, ever knocked on the door where somebody has ever said, I vote for you if you're a woman, or I'm only voting for you because you're a man. Literally nobody's interested in the gender of the person who's standing. All they're interested in is what you believe in, what you stand for, what you're going to do for the area, what you're going to do in your time. That's what people are interested in.
This reminds me of the debate that we did at Bath University with the Women's Equality Party. We had Tessa Munt.
Oh yeah, she's terrible.
Yeah.
She likes to stand up and cross her arms when she talks, and I thought that was actually quite impressive, but also not appropriate for that debate. But that's a side note. She was saying the reason why people care about more female MPs being in Parliament, for example, in the House, is because when there's too many men, the women get bullied or overwhelmed, or they basically, she was saying they can't handle it. And then I think I mentioned Margaret Thatcher, and I think her face didn't like that.
I don't think Anne Widdecombe ever got bullied or...
Oh, no.
In fact, Anne Widdecombe always tells a story, which I always think is very entertaining. She always tells us, because she's tremendous on these issues, Anne Widdecombe, absolutely fantastic. And she remembers, she tells a story about after 97, when lots of women MPs were elected from Labour. And she said that not long after this, she found a Labour MP crying in the corridor. And,
I didn't laugh. Sorry.
And she went up to her and said, what's up, are you all right? She said, I've just had all this abuse in the chamber. Those men, they're awful to women. And Anne Widdecombe said to her, she said, no, you're absolutely right, they are. She said, but have you noticed how awful they are to each other as well? They don't...
Exactly.
And she said, in effect, she said, this is Anne Widdecombe, but she said that she told her as sympathetically as she could that she'd had a pasting in the chamber, not because she was a woman, but because she was useless. That's why she got a pasting. And if she'd been a useless man, she'd have got just as much of a pasting as being a useless woman.
Yeah, women seem to get a pasting by
her sex was irrelevant in this whole process. It wasn't. She hadn't been picked on because she was a woman. She'd been picked on because she was useless. Was what Anne Widdecombe said.
Sorry, I just interrupted you. I'll say it again. Sorry, I wanted to know what you thought. I see sometimes some viral videos on the internet that Corbyn gets a pasting from May quite often.
Absolutely.
That's a woman against a man.
Absolutely. Neil Kinnock used to get a pasting from Margaret Thatcher.
Yes. Yeah.
Regularly. So I mean, it's nothing to do with people's sex, or it's to do with people's ability.
What do you think the Women's Equality Party stands to gain from standing against you in Shipley?
Oh, well, they seem to be gaining some publicity. That's basically it, and that might be their purpose. I don't know, but if it is, it's been quite successful for them so far. And I'm happy for them to. In an election, the more choice that people have, the better. I don't fear other people standing for election. I welcome them. They're obviously not that confident of winning, because it seems that their whole strategy is trying to stop any other candidate from standing. So it doesn't show they've got a great deal of confidence in their message, that they need everyone else to stand aside before they might get any votes. But that's up to the other parties, and we'll see. It's up to the people of Shipley to decide who they want to represent them in Parliament, and whatever their verdict is, I'll accept and respect it, and I won't. I'm certainly not going to take their support for granted. So we will.
Well, on that note, with the phone ringing, I just wanted to make a few comments before we finish. Well, thank you for your time, first of all, and I think I speak for all of us, including you, Philip, when I say that we can promote egalitarian values, we can promote family values, and listen to what people want, but we don't need to do it using feminist theory.
No.
Feminist theory likes to put laws that go through the Istanbul ratification, and they like to say concentrate on the plight of women and domestic violence and completely ignore men. We don't need to do that. We can tackle these issues without using feminist theory. And the reason why we feel so strongly, and the reason why we're here and we set up Ladies of Philip Davies, is because we know that feminists do not represent all women, and they keep claiming, especially the Women's Equality Party. And in fact, Sophie said that in her article yesterday.
She'll
that
be a voice for
we
all
are the voice
women.
for all women. Well,
Yeah,
they're not the voice for all women. They're the voice for
studies
feminists.
consistently show that feminists are actually a minority. Most people in
Yes.
the country are egalitarian. They're not ideological feminists at all.
She clearly also doesn't seem to want to speak up for any of the men in the constituency.
No.
either.
Oh,
So I try and
obviously
speak up
not.
for all people in my constituency, irrespective of whether they're men or women. So, yes. I mean, the thing is, the title of the party is interesting because if they did believe in equality, they'd presumably be called the Equalities Party.
Yes, like the committee should be called.
Yeah, so I mean, it makes you wonder why they have to be called the Women Equalities Party, because if surely just equality would do.
Yeah, I think the more apt title might have been the Feminist Chauvinist Party.
Oh yes. oh, sorry. Oh, are we saying names now?
No.
Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should.
Have we got time for one more quick
Let's just
question?
Yeah, go on.
Do we have one more?
Go
Yeah. Go on.
I just really wanted to ask you about what you think about Suella Fernandez's family justice bill. I was surprised actually not to see your name on it, presenting it.
I'm not sure I can recall Suella Fernandez's family justice bill.
Right,
interesting.
it hasn't been published yet, but she presented it on, I can't remember now. The first reading was not so long ago, and she wants an assumption of shared parenting in family courts. She wants the family courts to stop being secretive because she says that they need to be cleaned up and only the glare of publicity will do that. She wants a commission to report on whether we should have no-fault divorce because she thinks the fault system sort of exacerbates false allegations of abuse. She wants a limit on how much maintenance women can claim from their husbands after divorce, or possibly the other way around in some situations. And also she wants parents who are defaulting on childcare arrangements and not letting the non-resident parents see the child to be punished, because currently only 1.2% of complaints are actually upheld. And she wants them to look at whether they might do a strict 3 strikes and you're out kind of rule, where if they keep not letting the child see the non-resident parent, then the care of the child will be passed to the non-resident parent, and also possibly they might lose their passport or driver's license.
All right. Well, I shall speak to her about it if I get re-elected, and see what we can.
Well,
And
let's
I
hope
understand
when.
David Burrows is
Yeah.
involved in it as well. He's one of the MPs
Yeah,
who
he's a good
presented
guy.
it.
David Burrows is a good guy.
Would you say that David Burrows supports some of your theories on the Equality Committee?
You'd have to ask him.
Yeah.
I have asked him.
Oh, there you go.
I think he came round to our way of thinking, but he's probably not committed enough to come in and show up to a vote. That's my feeling. But
It's still
I
a
might be
dangerous
spending
thing to
some
do.
more time with him while he's campaigning for this general election, because we're in a swing seat. He voted 63% Remain, and I don't want to get a Labour council, so...
Can you imagine if more MPs came out and said how they might really feel? Well, we have suspicions that some of them don't all agree with the feminist rhetoric.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if that actually happened? We wouldn't really need to exist
We
then,
wouldn't.
would we?
We
That would be
Well,
great.
there's lots of MPs who agree with me privately, but they won't say so publicly.
Yes.
And not just in the Conservative Party.
No.
No.
I can imagine.
Not just in the, there's
Yeah.
quite a few Labour MPs who also absolutely 100% agree with what I say, but there's no way on earth they would ever stand up and say it. Because
Yes, because they'll get called a misogynist
yeah,
and
absolutely.
a national disgrace.
Yeah. Oh,
And what else has been been called?
Oh.
You can tell us.
Oh.
I couldn't.
It's all water that's back.
But actually, in some respects, the thing is, there is actually, it's easy to, it would be better if other people did speak out, because we couldn't all be a national disgrace.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's easy when there's only one to sort of try and isolate them. But if there were actually 50 or 60 or whatever, then it would be much more mainstream. But look, I remember being in 2005 being the only MP to openly say we should leave the EU. And I used to get lots of ridicule for that back then too, not where we are now. So I don't I'm always optimistic that if you've got a good argument and you're persistent and you make your case, actually you can actually win the day even when it looks unlikely at the start.
I heard a rumour that politicians are always 10 years behind the general public, and
At
maybe you're
least.
the exception there.
No, maybe I'm 10 years behind and everyone else is 20 years behind, probably. But but I think it's true that, I mean,
But the more public support you get, I think that's going to be good for other MPs to see, and maybe they will start stepping up and
I think it's all that Marmite that you
getting
eat.
there.
I am a bit of a Marmite character, I guess, amongst my. I think there are some people in Shipley who think I'm brilliant, and some people who think I'm absolutely the devil incarnate. So you just
Well, what is it? 9,000 majority. I think that's quite a lot. Like Marmite.
They obviously like Marmite and
Yeah.
Shipley.
Like Marmite.
Also, well, look, as financial advisor would say, past performance is no guarantee of future success, and so.
Yeah.
We'll see what they say on the 8th of June.
Best of luck.
Yes,
Thank you
best
very
of luck.
much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And thank you for your
No
support. I
No
appreciate
worries.
it.